Hello, welcome. Hello, welcome. So here we have another live, and today's topic is all about emotions. This is a big topic. This is something that is virtually every single human being at some point has felt all these different emotions: sadness, anger, fear, all of that. And I'm going to be giving some quick tips on how we can navigate those. So I'm hoping that you can hear okay, because I have the fan going. It's incredibly hot where I am, and as we're coming into the summer, so I've got the fan on, so hopefully you can hear okay. And today is all about this topic of emotions. So this is the thing with emotions. Often there can be this tendency, this perspective that some emotions are good and some are bad, some are positive and some are negative. And I'm here to change all that, rewrite the story on that, and that all emotions are valid. All emotions can be a wonderful opportunity for growth, for insight, so therefore something positive. All emotions are important. And this is the thing, especially in the spiritual world, in the consciousness community, like whatever you want to call it, sometimes, especially in the spiritual, in terms of like certain spirituality practices or religions even, sometimes there can be this perspective that anger is bad, fear is bad, sadness is bad, and there can be this sense of judgment around those particular emotions. And when we hold judgment against particular emotions, and these are human emotions that virtually every single human being will experience at some point in their life, that when those emotions arise, if we have judgments about them and beliefs about them that they are bad, then what's going to happen? We're going to want to avoid them, suppress them, not fully feel them and express them. And when we do that, when we don't fully feel them and express them, and we hold them in within, or we avoid it, we don't look at it, we just shove it under the carpet, that's when health issues can arise. That's when panic attacks can arise. That's when the emotion can become bigger and bigger, obviously depending on the individual. Though from personal experience, I can share that after having weekly panic attacks many years ago and experiencing that on a weekly basis, and so much of that was because I had been suppressing emotions over the years, especially through childhood. I've been suppressing everything, keeping everything within and not saying anything, not expressing how I felt. And by doing that, it became like this big pressure cooker, growing and growing and growing, and just becoming bigger and bigger and bigger, and until the point I had panic attacks. And that was happening on a weekly basis because those emotions needed to come out. Emotion, energy in motion. You probably heard of that phrase. Everything is made up of energy. And this is not some woo-woo like concept. This is proven by science. We are electrical beings. We have electromagnetic field. Everything is made up of energy, space, vibrating particles, frequencies, all of that. So this is proven by science. And this includes the thoughts that we think. This includes the foods and drinks that we consume. This includes emotions that we have. So if we have a particular energy there, anger, like energy of anger, or energy of fear, or energy of sadness, or whatever that is, that's going to be there within our field. And if we don't express that, if we don't allow that to move through us, and we be witness of it, and we allow it to move through, it's going to remain stuck within our system. And that's when it causes problems. So the key is to really allow emotions to flow through us without blaming, shaming, judging, and without remaining attached to them as well. Sometimes we can remain stuck in particular emotional states because they feel comfortable. Also, some people feel very comfortable in the world of anger, or very comfortable in the world of sadness, or very comfortable in the world of fear, because that's their comfort bubble. And stepping out of that and allowing that to move through us, that's when we're able to really tap into greater sense of well-being and health. And all of this I can talk about from experience. Obviously, I don't know every single thing on the planet about emotions, but I can talk about this from experience because I've learned what works by doing the complete opposite and making all the mistakes and really knowing what not to do with emotions, hence the panic attacks. And also I've had some health issues that I've worked on in the past. So all of these things have been connected to holding on to worries and stresses and anxiety and fears and doubts and anger and all of that. So it's important that we allow these to move through us. So how can we allow these emotions to move through us? So first of all, it's really important, and this is often forgotten about, is looking at our beliefs, looking at our beliefs about emotions. People often give the quick tips and the tools to process the emotions, but when we get to the beliefs, when we look at the root, like how we actually relate to specific emotions, then that is really interesting. That is really interesting. It's like, okay, what do I believe about anger? So how do we find this out? What you can do is you can get a piece of paper, A4 paper, and you can start off with sentences. Sentences like, anger is, and then you fill in the blank. Angry people are, and you fill in the blank. When I'm angry, I am, fill in the blank. Like just beginnings of sentences, all to do with anger. Anger within yourself, anger within others, anger in general. And you end the sentence, just write down whatever comes to your mind first. So angry people are, fill in the blank. Like what's the first thing that comes up to you? And noticing this and noticing what comes up can be really interesting. It's like, wow, I never knew I had such beliefs about anger. I never knew I had such judgments or criticisms about anger. And by having that written down on a piece of paper, that can make it really clear. It's like, okay, this is my map. This is my belief system. This is my blueprint for the emotion of anger. Now, some of those beliefs will be positive and will be healthy, will be reinforcing of having a healthy relationship with anger, that we can feel it, we're allowed to feel it, and it can be expressed in a constructive way. If there are any beliefs that are not so helpful, that are based on judgment, criticism, that anger is bad, that it's wrong, that angry people are bad or wrong or blah, 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 fill in the blank. Now that's when we need to start looking at the beliefs and start changing the story. And we can change the story by starting to think about, okay, what is the positive opposite of that? So if I consider that anger is bad, so for example, that's the belief, anger is bad, then the opposite would be anger is good. And then we find something that's somewhere in the middle of those two, because often, like with limiting beliefs, there's like this extreme, this narrow tunnel vision of like, it's like this. So how we get out of that is we start asking ourselves, okay, what's the positive opposite? We get the other extreme. And then the truth lies somewhere in the middle, somewhere in the middle. So for example, got anger is bad, anger is good. There's something in the middle, which perhaps is, it's neither good or bad, it's what you do with it that's important. It's how you choose to express it that's important. It's how you allow that energy to flow through you that's important. That's what it's really about, not whether it's good or bad, because those are judgments. Getting to the core, getting to the middle option, we get closer to the truth. It's like, okay, if it's about how we express it is what we choose to do with it that's important, then perhaps there are constructive ways and destructive ways to express anger. So we can feel it. I can feel anger. I can feel irritated and angry about something, and then I can go and punch someone. That would be destructive because that's causing harm to someone else, and it could cause harm to yourself as well. But we don't want to go around punching people because that's not creating more love in the world, is it? So use it, like expressing that in a constructive way would be, instead of punching someone else, you go and punch a pillow. And you allow yourself to release frustrations and any anger into that pillow. That's a constructive way. Or, for example, another constructive way of releasing anger would be, this is one of my favorites, is to get a piece of paper and get a color or crayon, pencil, paint, something in the color that for you represents anger, whatever color that is. And you get that color and you just scribble, and you allow all of that frustration to go onto the piece of paper. You just scribble, 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 paint, splatter it, get it onto the paper. Breathe as you do this. Allow yourself to breathe as you do this, and you release it onto the paper. Screw up the piece of paper, throw it away. Done. So obviously this depends on the intensity of how strong the emotion is and what's going on, because obviously if there's like a really big thing that we've experienced in our life and there's a lot more to it, then there can be many stories connected to this. There can be an opportunity of, often with anger, there's an opportunity to reinforce boundaries. Maybe some boundary is being crossed. Maybe there's been an injustice in some way. It's really, there's many different layers to it, though I'm just giving some simple basic tools on how to start with it, and just starting to see, okay, there's constructive, there's destructive. What do I believe about anger? Like, how do I choose to express it? This is all important. This is all important. I often use the metaphor, it's not a hammer, it's what you choose to do with it. That you can build a house or destroy a house with a hammer. What do you choose to do? So this goes for the same for all the other emotions. Fear, sadness. Often in the spiritual communities, there can be a lot of bypassing and focusing on only love and light, only love and light. Fear, don't fear. Like often there's a fear of fear itself in those communities. And this judgment that fear is low vibration. Now, yes, on the Hawkins scale, it is a lower vibration compared to love. Though, when we judge it, when we fear it, when we blame it, when we avoid it, we're not allowing that energy and motion to flow through us. It remains stuck somewhere. And if we want to truly, truly create expansion, we need to look at the shadow too. We need to allow that energy to move through us. Otherwise, it's hidden in some way. So it's really important just to pay attention to this. Like with fear, fear is okay. Fear can be like when we see it as a teacher, when we see it as a guide and we don't live according to it, but we can learn from it. And I say see it as a guide in terms of like when fear is in flow, when we're just paying attention to that, something like we feel a bit nervous about something doesn't quite feel right. Sometimes that can be our intuition teaching us something, like bringing something up. And then, so that's one way that we can feel that little bit of like, oh, no, something doesn't feel right about that person or this situation or something like that. And that's fear in flow. But when fear gets stuck and then it builds up and builds up and builds up, then that's when it can become an issue. Though fear itself is not an issue. Fear itself is an emotion, another emotion. And by allowing ourselves to allow fear to flow through us, then we're able to create more space for that light to shine even brighter. and we're able to create more space for that love to shine through even more. Like creating love and light actually on this planet, in my opinion, actually is very much based on our capacity to feel emotions, to express emotions, and to allow those to flow through us. And find what works for you. There can be many practices, many different opinions, many different perspectives on how you should express, how it needs to be expressed, how much or how little needs to be expressed. And especially I've noticed, like with women, sometimes there can be a lot of judgment about women expressing emotions, and that it's like, oh, she's crazy, or oh, she's this, or oh, she's blah blah blah. And no, it's just like every single human being is allowed to express, and as long as it's in a way that doesn't harm yourself or harm others, then that's what would be constructive. So emotions are creative outlets. So they fuel music, like creating music. They fuel creating films and poetry. They fuel artists, like when they feel an emotion and they want to paint it and get it out on paper. They fuel dancers, like emotions are the fuel for dancers when they are dancing a particular emotion. So any form of creative expression can be really, really wonderful. Any form of constructive release, which can be in the form of creative expression, or it can be in the form of exercise, moving the body. That's another really wonderful way to move emotions through the body and allow them to move out. And there are a couple of keys to that: breath, movement, sound. Breath, movement, sound. So this is something that is so, so important for emotions, is to move the body, because so much of the emotions are stored within the body. So there's only so much work that we can do up here within the mind. And yes, this is coming from an NLP trainer. That other NLP trainers might say something else differently, though I feel it's so important to work somatically with emotions also. It's important to notice the stories and what's going on within the mind and the beliefs we have about them, but then also move the body. So it's mind and body together. Move the body, shake it off, discharge that emotion. Breath, movement, sound. Like give you, like sigh it out, or like like whatever noise you want to make, like just let it out of the body. And when we're releasing emotions, often there's this period of discharge. It's like shaking off or letting go, or movements that are a bit more almost like like a thunderstorm, like the electrical intensity in the sky is being discharged through the lightning, and it's being discharged, and you can see the zigzag, the form of the lightning, or that flash of the lightning. So it's this discharge. Then once you've done that, you can come back to the breath, and if you're dancing, for example, you can bring more curves and bring more fluidity to that as you bring yourself back to your center. So there's so much more to talk about this, and this is such a big topic. Those are like a few little snippets, and if you want to explore this further, then do check out the podcast. There's an episode on emotions there. Once I finish this live, I will put the link in the description. I have workshops coming up. So on Wednesday, I have a meetup on the beach. So if you're listening to the recording after the date, check out what I have going on, because usually there are other things. There's always workshops and things that are out that I'm doing. So on Wednesday, there's an NLP meetup on the beach, and that's embodied NLP. So it's bringing the mind and body together, and I'll be talking about body posture. and how that has a knock-on effect on confidence, and some simple tips and tools on how to really connect to authentic confidence. So that's on Wednesday. That's in Villanova i Geltrú, so a short train journey from Barcelona. And that would be a lovely evening on the beach. Like, why not make the most of this wonderful weather, learn something interesting, and also meet some lovely people as well. This is a donation-based meetup, so you can pay what you feel at the end. And then on Saturday, I have a workshop for mothers, and this is also on authentic confidence. And this workshop for mothers is 2.5 hours dedicated for mothers. They can have this wonderful morning retreat on Saturday, and we'll really dive into negative self-talk, emotions, body posture, all of that, like how to really step into your power and feel great and really embrace your full self. Not just you as a mother, but your full self, the multidimensional woman that you are. Or if you're not a woman watching this, then maybe you know of a mother that would be interested. So that's on Saturday. And then on Monday will be the last live, YouTube live, until September. So I will be taking a break over the next couple of months. Maybe I'll pop in, it depends what's happening in my schedule, though I'm going to be traveling a lot over the next couple of months. So the YouTube lives will take a little pause, and you still have the podcast coming out every 2 weeks, and you have all the replays as well of the YouTube lives as well to check out if you want more. So that's a little bit about what's coming up. So if there are any questions about emotions, let me know. As I mentioned in today's class, it's looking at the beliefs. So those beginnings of sentences. Anger is, fear is, sadness is, sad people are, fearful people are, angry people are. When I'm angry, I am, or like fill in the blank. Find out those beliefs and start challenging those beliefs. What's the positive opposite? And is there something more true in the middle? So anger is not bad, it's not good. It's what you do with it that counts. And there's always a message. Emotions are like doors opening up, and there's a message there, there's a gift there. And when you move through that door, you gain what lies on the other side. So when you move through the door of anger, you connect with creative passion. When you move through the door of sadness, you get deeper connection and understanding. When you move through the door of fear, you get courage. So they're doors opening up, messages. So there's so much more I can share about emotions, that I'll leave it there and find ways where you can really use your creative expression to allow that emotion to flow through you. It's just like meditation, and mindfulness, like where we have the thoughts come and go. It's not about clearing the mind. That's often a misconception. It's not meditation. It's not about clearing the mind. It's about observing it, letting go of attachment, and just allowing them to pass through. And it's the same with emotions, allowing them to pass through, and that we have a choice on how we choose to express that and channel that energy emotion. And if something is really, really, really triggering, and we feel like, oh, I'm just going to explode, I'm not going to express it in a constructive way, take a pause. Take yourself out of the situation if you can, a few deep breaths, write down how you feel, punch a few pillows, or have a good cry, or whatever you need to do to then come back to a place where you can communicate what you need to the other if there's another person involved. So that's a little bit about emotions. Obviously, it's a big topic, and thank you so much for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. As I always say in the meetups and in the workshops, thank you for being you. That's such a wonderful phrase to share with others, to share with loved ones, and to share with yourself. So why not put that on a post-it note and stick it somewhere where you can say that to yourself. So I will be back next week, next Monday at 7 at that Central European time for another live class. And thank you so much for being here. and I'll connect with you soon. Much love.